Astrology. How many of you are familiar with just the language of archetypes? Most astrologers, it's becoming more and more common. Okay. I'll give you a little background without, hopefully insulting your intelligence. But I'd love to start with a quote from Martha Graham that I feel, whether you don't have to be a dancer to appreciate this quote, because I feel she really understood the idea of channeling archetypes, being the good Taurus with the strong Neptune that she was in her chart. So the quote, some of you may have heard this before. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And there is only one of you in all time. This expression is unique, and if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how it compares with other expression. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep open and aware directly to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. No artist is pleased. There is no satisfaction whatever at any time. There is only a queer, divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. So,
wonderful.
That quote keeps me inspired every day. Yeah. So, I feel like I can end the lecture. Go work on your archetypes. Okay. So, we've all heard this expression also, the kingdom of heaven is within. And to me, the astrology is the most amazing tool to really not only have direct access to the specific archetypal energies that are influencing you at any moment in time, but also it's the only roadmap I know of that exists of the inner and the outer world. So let's first define archetypes. Archetypes are life energies that are constantly pouring out of us day and night. They influence everyone in our lives. They cause us to be influenced. They mold and change our behaviors. So in the system that I work with, I'm a Jungian psychologist, for those of you that don't know, so I work often with my clients, not just astrologically. I mean, it's interesting. When I started in the 90s, I had to kind of, believe it or not, hide the fact that I was an astrologer as well as a psychotherapist, because I was afraid I would scare some of my clients away or they wouldn't take me seriously. And now it's really what brings people to me. They're like, oh, thank God, a therapist who knows astrology and does something, other than
Where do you live?
In New York City, okay. Sorry, yeah. Well, things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot. You have to go back to the 90s. I mean, now it sounds ridiculous, right? It's like, what? People not interested in astrology. Like, but I remember those days. I remember having to hide it.
I just moved to Asheville, and I still have to do that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, even but they secretly call.
You're a therapist?
Mean?
Yeah.
That, and I'm a counselor. Yes,
okay.
And an astrologer for a long time. So.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's interesting. So now it's such an amazing tool. It saves so much time. So even what I would try to do back in the 90s is figure out a discreet way to get people's birth info. And what time were you born? Maybe if it was in the daytime, like it affected the way your mother looked at you. And, that was part of the complex. So I try to put it on the intake really subtly, like, no, I'm not doing your chart. I'm just really into numbers. But anyway, so I use that in my practice, of course. And anyway, it's just an amazing tool, and I really use it as a way to understand how different archetypal energies or different life force, which we'll talk about, how they create both the strengths and the weaknesses in my clients. So getting back to the definition of archetype, now the idea that an archetype creates and stains your reality, that might sound, how is that? How is something, what is this? It's very hard to define. In fact, there's all these debates going on now between Jung's work and his definition of the archetype, and how he kind of tried to, the same way I used to try to hide the astrological approach to my work, Jung was accused of hiding the spiritual aspect of his psychology so that he would be taken seriously. And then Kenneth Wilber now is trying to, grapple with Jung's definition and say, why didn't he make it more spiritual? His definition of an archetype. Maybe it's this formless thing that exists out there that's actually very numinous and part of spirit. Whereas Jung would emphasize a lot of the instinctual part of the archetype. But then they go back and forth and you see it's both. It really depends on the level of a person's consciousness, how they experience an archetypal energy. This famous neuroscientist, Carl Pribben, theorized that we all exist in this primary reality, which is a frequency domain, or an invisible matrix that contains, it understands the universe as a hologram. And in this hologram, we have at least these 22 primal archetypal energies, which, now this comes from a system that I work with, and I owe very much to the work of Edwin Steinbrecher, who developed the Inner Guide meditation. Has anyone ever heard of that book or that work? It's not that well known, but it's really amazing. He was a Jungian therapist and an astrologer who decided to put the two together, basically, like to take astrology and figure out a way to make it an active tool for meditation and for active imagination. It's something we use in Jungian therapy where you work directly with archetypal energies or images. And is everyone clear on archetype? Did I describe it enough, or is there any need for that? Okay, great. So he decided to devise a system where he could use the archetypes of the tarot system, actually. He found that those were probably the most accessible images we have of archetypal energies. And what's amazing is with the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck, we have, within that it's contained the 12 signs, and the sun and moon and the 8 planets. So it's a perfect system, unless you, of course, are into these Pluto and all these other planets and asteroids out there, but it's pretty complete. This neuroscientist, Carl Pribben, he was a neuroscientist from Stanford. So he's the one that said, if we understand this universe as a hologram, then these 22 archetypal energies exist within that, and they create and sustain our reality systems. So they're making us up as we're making up our reality. And the chart shows how this is an integral system. In other words, sometimes, everyone's talking now, you create your own reality. The secret's huge now, right? You create your own reality, you create your own destiny. Well, it depends on how conscious you are. If you are actually, you do have that kind of free will that you're creating it. How much of it are you creating? How much of it are you being created? I think both are happening simultaneously, and it really depends on the level of consciousness, right? So, to me, that's the best tool of astrology, is to use it as your roadmap, your tool for consciousness. What's conscious in you? How do you grow into your horoscope, right? It's not just a given, like, oh, there's your horoscope, so this is you. Because, many people say, well, a cockroach was born at the same time as Jesus Christ. So there's got to be some work done here to get to a certain level of realizing these archetypal energies, right? So here's a nice quote I have from Jung about the archetypes. Actually, maybe I'll give you the Kenneth Wilber quote first. Let's do Jung first. Archetypes have, when they appear, a distinctly numinous character which can only be described as spiritual if magical is too strong of a word. Consequently, this phenomenon is of the utmost significance for the psychology of religion. So, do you guys, can you relate in your own experience to something that felt archetypal or numinous? Do you really feel like the archetype is present?
I don't know what numinous means.
I'm sorry, numinous is something of the sublime. It's like something other. It's that feeling of something that transcends our normal experience of reality. The sublime is the best way I can put it. Something spiritual or magical.
Like an orgasm?
That would be numinous. Well, it depends, Some people experience that as entirely physical. So the numinosity depends on the one experiencing, I guess.
There are male and female species.
Yeah. I suggested second, but I just said it should, but
Well,
yes.
I have a comment on that. When I set out to find astrology, of course, I didn't know that I was setting out to find astrology.
Yeah.
All I knew is that I wanted to find something magical and something spiritual and I wanted to find the archetypes, right? And what I found was astrology. So the whole movement in astrology now, which I might call fundamentalist in a way, with people that want you to be really grounded in technique and like evolutionary astrology is bad stuff because we can't prove that it exists and this and that. I mean, I just think that's silly because I set out on a spiritual journey, and what I found was astrology. And on the way, I absolutely experienced magical moments that let me know that I was on the path, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to me, the two are one, really.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Being on the path, or as Joseph Campbell is famous for saying, experiencing your bliss. What is it?
Follow your bliss?
Follow your bliss, thank you. Or being on the beam, he says, how do you know if you're on the beam of your life? And I think when all of the archetypes in your horoscope are activated, which is very difficult to keep them all pleased, or all alive and living, right? We often have very conflicting desires and wishes, right? It's not like, I'll just keep my Aries moon happy and we'll just ignore Capricorn. Capricorn can, we can't, they all have very different desires, so, yeah. So, but if you work with a horoscope and you figure out a way to try to keep as many of them alive and kicking and happy, and like this Martha Graham quote said, you keep that life force moving through, and you don't block any of those energies or repress them or project them outside of you, I think you have a real chance to experience that illumination and that feeling of bliss. So that's my goal tonight, to help you guys use your chart in that way. Use it more actively instead of just analyzing it and using it as an excuse, like, well, I would do that, but I wouldn't even be here. So I would say, my sun in the 12th house, it doesn't like to speak in front of people. I'm sorry, I'm going to stay home. I would much rather be in the dark listening to music and being invisible, but my sun is in the 12th house, totally horrified to have.
She's suffering right now, but she's having bliss at the same time.
Yeah.
Saying this in my language. This is great.
But my Leo self-known loves being up here.
Well, most people are actually more afraid of speaking in public than they are of dying.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, for real.
I'm one of them.
I love teaching. It's just getting over like the feeling of exposure, So it's like, if you, it's interesting. Often people with Sun in the 12th house love performing because it allows you to enter that archetypal realm without having to.
Most presidents have it, right?
Yeah. It's great for the performer, but yeah.
It's full moon in Leo. So
Yes. Shit, my boa. Did you see the moon? It was gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. See, we can't even see the moon in New York City. It's often blocked by this.
But Kelly probably had her out in time.
Yeah.
I almost up the
Gorgeous.
truck and filmed
That's
it.
why we were a little late, because we were like
Just a little.
moon gazing. Yeah. Actually, we're right on time, but according to plan. Anyway, so getting back to the idea of how we experience the archetype being dependent on our level of consciousness, I think that's a really important point. We may experience the archetype as purely instinctual, like a drive, just like must eat now. I was hummus. As mythic, or as I said, something more spiritual or numinous, which often we experience when you see an amazing piece of art or performance, or you have a religious experience of some kind. There's a great quote by Jung too, that religion is a defense against a religious experience.
Nice.
I haven't heard that one. That's awesome.
That goes down. So let's talk about a little more about the numinous. Somebody asked me what the heck is numinous. The numinous is something that is to be lived because it is an archetypal experience. It's something that exceeds definition, evokes amazement, awe. It inspires us not only to have reverence for something, but it also brings up a sense of fear. It's like when you're in the presence of something numinous, you feel both that awe and fear almost simultaneously. To me, that's really good art or performance. And the process, here, actually this is a nice quote too, I'll share with you guys. the process of individuation, which is another Jungian concept, which I'm not sure if you're all familiar with, but it's the idea, it would be the idea of really actualizing your horoscope, basically, and going beyond. It should be the point where somebody wouldn't even be able to read your horoscope. They would sit down with you like, wow, that used to be me, but, especially like the squares and the oppositions, that you say, wow, yeah, that used to be an issue for me. I used to project that part out of me. My boyfriend was Saturn and my wife was Venus, and now, but the idea is that you've integrated all of this and you've realized, you've become conscious of all these energies. But in order to go through this process, the self has to go through something similar to, like being cooked, almost like a lobster. Like you have to die, you're cooked, you're torn apart, and then through something numinous that happens, there's a new form that comes through. It's like alchemy. So often, it's interesting with archetypes, people are very often guarded about their archetypal experiences. It's often something very private, sometimes painful. Sometimes they're afraid of being ridiculed because it's difficult to put into words, those archetypal experiences. And they're the type of experiences that strike into the core of your being. So that's how you know, you feel it. And when you're in the presence of an archetypal experience, often you have actually a very different physiological experience. Like, especially you'll see it with people that project their inner gods and goddesses onto relationships, or somebody that they're dating, someone new. They'll feel suddenly frozen in the presence of that person, or on fire, Like your body really takes on these very extreme physiological states when you're in the presence of the archetype. So let's talk about how we can use the archetypal energies in the chart. I go on and on about alchemy, but I'd rather just get to the archetypes in the chart. So we'll start with, often people like this, we'll go through the 12 signs, right? That's always my favorite thing. Yeah, let's do the cookbook. So let's start with Aries. How many Aries do we have in here? Great. So you can tell me if any of these archetypes resonate for you. If we break the chart.
Get some water.
Oh, please. These are some of the archetypes I've collected, and many of them can be found in my favorite book, The Inner Guide Meditation, that I recommend. It's the book that kind of describes, it's Edwin Steinbrecher, describes the work of using your horoscope to do this meditation, which I will teach you. And
His name is Steinbrecher?
Steinbrecher, yeah. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was an amazing astrologer who started the Dome Center in Los Angeles. And Dome stands, it's a Latin, it's an acronym, and it means may all the gods and goddesses bring forth light. So the idea that the archetypes are actually our inner gods and goddesses. So here are some of the archetypes for Aries. And Aries, tell me if these resonate for you. Now, the tarot archetype for Aries, of course, is the Emperor. So if you've seen the tarot deck, I'm kind of using the Rider-Waite terminology. How many of you are familiar with the tarot deck? Okay, I figured. Most people who do astrology also have some knowledge of this. So, so Aries is the Emperor. And if you think about that image or that card, it's like the ruler, the commander, not the builder, but the father archetype, or the boss, the big chief.
The first thing she started telling me when we got married is, "You're too commanding."
Yeah.
Wait until you were married.
Which I think is interesting, because often when people talk about the personality of Aries, they'll say, "Oh, it's the baby, it's this and that," but they don't. Often, a lot of astrology books don't really have the reference for Aries as being the commander.
Bossy.
The Fool works really well too.
You like the Fool for Aries?
Yes.
You do. Okay. So I'll give you my interpretation of the Fool too. We link it with the planet Uranus, but maybe there's a connection there. So we'll figure it out.
Uranus has the cross of matter above the circle of spirit, just like Mars does.
Oh yes. Very good.
A lot of people link Uranus with Aries, actually, like
That's
maybe an
interesting.
exaltation or something.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Fire.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Also, since the Fool is the beginning of the deck, too. Yeah. The Law of 4. I know a lot of Aries that are very into the number 4, which I think is interesting. I have a friend that's like, 4s always show up in my life. Yeah. Do you know that 4s?
Yep.
Because 4 is structure. It's like concretizing something. Of course, the Ram, which we all associate with Aries, like head first. The Initiator. the first, the higher self, the conqueror, the daredevil, Athena, and Aries is also called the chief among the mighty ones. So the way to work with this now is that wherever we all have Aries somewhere in our horoscope, right? So with all these signs, don't think, oh, that's not me. That's just the sun we're talking about.
He's loving it too. I feel sorry for her tonight.
I already know.
I'm used to that.
It might be
Yeah. So think about where you have Aries in your horoscope, right? Which area Aries rules, and think about how you would activate that archetypal energy of being the initiator for the first, or how you would. I don't know if I said the survivor. That's one too. It's that, or the conqueror. You know, how does that energy resonate in that area of your horoscope?
So why do I have to do everything?
So if you don't
That's
know the
Capricorn.
energy you're projecting or
Yes, absolutely. Or you're experiencing it coming to you on the outside. If you experience a lot of angry, pushy, bossy people that always are saying me, me, me first, you probably have a Mars or an Aries issue to work out. Yeah. Because as Jung said, whatever comes to us, whatever's unconscious will come to us as fate. And what is conscious is free will. But it takes a lot of work to be conscious of these things. Which is nice, so then next time you get an astrology reading and you hear about your transits, just go direct. If they say, oh no, you have Saturn transit, restriction, loss, this, go work with Saturn instead of being like, oh my god, okay, I'll just wait for this. I have so many clients that are like, is it over yet? It's like, well, do something with it. Like, what do you mean? You know, you're just like holding.
Yeah.
When is the transit gonna pass? You know?
It's like they want to miss the opportunity or something.
Yeah, it's like the point of having a transit is to help us grow and expand our conscious. I mean, I've done it too. Please trust me. I'm like, damn, I kept this Pluto transit to be over with. It's only been 10 years. I didn't waste any time. Yeah, it's hard. You know, it's like taking responsibility. You know, for our own evolution, our own consciousness. So, yeah. So that's the Aries archetype. Let's go on to Taurus. Now, instead of saying who's a Taurus, I should say who has strong Taurus energy in their horoscope. Taurus.
Mars.
Mars.
Rising.
Taurus over here. Rising. Feeling grounded.
Rising.
Jupiter. All.
Uranus conjunct Mars.
In Taurus.
Saturn.
Saturn.
Just like you. We're born 3 months apart.
Wow.
Those Aquarians didn't jump up like the Aries did, did they?
No.
They're too comfortable.
Right. All right. Well, Taurus, you should be very proud because look at your archetypes; are very, very exciting. And a lot of people don't link these things to Taurus. Did you know Taurus is the high priest in the deck? That's the one giving the mantra, the mudra. The blessing of the hand, which means what you see is not all there is. Which is interesting because the devil archetype gives the opposite, which is what you see is all there is, which is fear. But the Taurus is saying what you see is not all there is. Listen. Taurus is the function of listening. And Taurus is the priest, which a lot of people don't connect Taurus to this function. They just think Taurus like to eat and sit at home with the remote control. There's a lot more going on with Taurus and the potato chips, you know, all these stereotypes.
I like to call it the druid.
Stereotypes that aren't archetypes, huh?
You know the druid, which is like the nature priest?
Yeah.
That works for Taurus.
The nature priest, yes, that's Taurus. The builder.
The singer. Singers.
Yep, the silent one. The one who hears. Divine presence as voice. The voice. Divine presence as voice. Intuition, our inner teacher. The bull. Of course, we all know that, the stubborn part. The prince. Revealer of the holy. I love that for Taurus. Master. The listening of the silence. The bridge maker. And the wisdom and fountain of mercy. So these are all beautiful. And it gives you more of the poetic feeling of each sign in the archetype instead of these like stereotypes like stubborn, lazy. You know, it breaks my heart when I have clients that are Taurus. I hate my sign. I have somebody like, I hate being a Taurus. I'm always just told I'm lazy and fat. It's like,
Astrologers feel that way that I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like it's such an amazing sign. Martha Graham was a Taurus.
If you look at the symbol, you got receptivity to spirit.
Yes. Yes, that little. That's right.
Yeah.
Receptivity. So now with the Taurus area of your horoscope, think of where that vibrates, and probably there's more listening to be done in that area, and more, of course, grounding and slowing down, and there can be a real deep spiritual teaching. That's what I love about Taurus. It's like if you take the time and you're receptive, there can be such a deep teaching that comes through listening to others. And whenever I do workshops, it's interesting. I have a client that's so amazing. She's a Taurus, and often we give each other feedback. I do a lot of these authentic movement workshops, we work with the archetypes directly, physically, and we give each other feedback of what we see in the movement. And she always, and Taurians are like this. They have this way of watching it, capturing the essence, because they just take it in through all of their senses, and then giving back this amazing feedback of what they just saw. That's like, wow, like they just listened with their whole body, Like when you really receive somebody, you're listening with every sense, and you really you get that with Taurus. It's beautiful. So again, think of where that is in your horoscope and how you could develop that further. Which area, which house, which planets want to work with that. Now Gemini, one of my favorites.
Can I say one more thing about Taurus?
Yeah, please.
One of the things I've noticed too about Taurus is that it's the archetype of, it sounds mundane, but we really need it in the astrological vernacular. It's the owner. One who owns, because it's about value. And everybody, we spend half our lives, do I own my house? Do I own this? Do I buying stuff?
Yeah.
So it's like we don't have an archetype for the owner.
That's nice.
Even though it sounds mundane, it's like
self-possession.
Yeah.
Yeah, like owning, and making, and when you have it, you can make other people feel secure.
yeah, and the gardener, once you have a house, you can have a garden.
Yes, yes. The gardener, that's beautiful. There's actually a wonderful quote too it's not a quote, it's from a poem by Anthony Machado. How do you say the last name?
Antonio Machado.
Antonio Machado. I love his poetry, which is, what have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you? And to me, the garden is the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Gemini. Who has strong Gemini? Great. Yay.
Can't shut us up.
So the archetype of Gemini in the tarot is the lovers, but it used to be called the twins, actually. But now in the Rider-Waite deck, it's called the lovers, and it has like the Adam and Eve symbol on the card, which has lots of more masculine and feminine energies. And other archetypes for Gemini are parting of the ways, Eros, Cupid, the two ways, the dual brain, logic, the androgynous twins, the connection, the student, Anubis, who is the god of the underworld, thinking perfected, Hermes, twinning, the angel Raphael, Castor and Pollux, the two-edged sword, duality, the monkey mind, choice, the witness, division, separation, the attractions of opposites, the journalist, which makes me, I don't know if it's playing here, did anyone see the movie I'm Not There? The Bob Dylan movie? Oh, it's a great movie, I recommend seeing it, especially if you're a Bob Dylan fan. He was a Gemini. Triple Gemini?
I heard you.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting because with the whole idea of the journalist being part of the Gemini archetype, because in the film, and he has a song, Mr. Jones song, he's obsessed with this whole shadow, this journalist figure, and it's just interesting. In that movie, they show like all these different archetypes, like all these different aspects, and these different characters. So
It's out right
it'd
now?
Yeah, it'd be interesting for all of us to think of like what your movie would be like that if you see this movie. Like if you could have different characters for all the different parts of your lives or different parts of yourselves. To look at your horoscope more like that. That's why I'm giving you these images to work with, so you can start thinking of your horoscope more in terms of images and poetry and something living and breathing rather than a bunch of adjectives.
Yeah, that works.
Right?
As a writer and novelist, I always
Yeah.
take each part of my chart and make it into one of the characters.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because they found that, like Tolkien, when you look at his chart, and you look at his chart, you'll
Yeah.
see his characters in his chart.
Oh yeah.
So any creative person, you can see their creativity in the chart. So why not use it consciously?
Yeah. I mean, really, it's such a gift to.
Oh yeah, the same thing with the guy that did Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
George Lucas.
Lucas. Yeah, look at his chart, man.
Yeah.
He's got some Pluto stuff going on.
Oh, we're always doing our chart. I mean, like I said, we're always doing it, and it's always doing us. So it's good to be conscious of what's happening there. Who are these inner characters? Okay, Cancer. Cancer. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish. With the Gemini, so again, depending on which area of your chart, this is where Gemini is distracted. What's going on? My Gemini shadow.
The trickster, the coyote.
Yeah, the coyote, exactly. So to think about where in your chart you have that energy, and often wherever you have that energy, there, more than there just being duality, there's also a need for reconciliation of the opposites there, and to honor that. Instead of, I always recommend, and I love when Kelly was telling me earlier, like how you do your Gemini, like how you guys you got married twice. Like things like that. Wherever you have Gemini, it's good. And his marriage house, so perfect. Wherever you have the Gemini in your chart, you should always give yourself permission to do things, to do it in twos, pairs. Like, you know, if it's your work house, you know, if it's your fourth house, you have two homes, you know, or
Oh, what if
two
it's
bank
rising?
accounts. If it's rising, you have two different personas.
You have a button you can push.
At least, yeah, maybe four. So, and also there's usually a need wherever that Gemini area vibrates in your chart for, I always recommend a lot of writing. You know, it's to give the mind, the mind an outlet for expression.
It's also the great liar. It's experiencing there.
Well, I think the lies only come when there's an inability to reconcile the opposites, you know, that we lie because we feel we have to conceal one part from another part of our reality.
Or because we're
So
confused
it's,
of-
it's a split of our integrity. So, and Geminis often struggle with that feeling like they have to just, I always tell my Gemini clients, you know, both, not either, like both. Both and.
Both and, not either or. Yeah,
Right,
I say
because-
that all the time too.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is good because it's simply a family and my sister.
Okay, good.
Well, the light side of the liar extreme is the storyteller.
Yeah.
The storyteller is the masterful liar, but it's a beautiful lie then because it's the storyteller.
Yeah, they can have their focus on saying it perfectly rather than having it be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Making it interesting.
Description.
Yeah.
So I was reading one of Stephen Forrest's books, and he says this finds out he's going to talk about the nose, and he says, "I'm going to tell you a story about yourself that will be true, except all the facts are different."
He's a great storyteller, isn't he?
Great, yeah.
But it's archetypal.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love it.
Wait, isn't there a book about writing called The Lie that tells the truth?
And
Oh,
that's what
lies are
journalists
truth,
do
yeah.
too, right? I mean, that's what journalists do. That's why it's interesting that they fall under Gemini because often, you know.
Yeah,
They lie.
my brother's a
Not to
Gemini.
get your story.
The only way you can get his attention is like to make a list of things and leave something off.
Yeah.
Like a Gemini trap.
Hermes was the god of thieves and highways, right? Yeah. So, you know, that whole idea of the crossroads. I noticed you put Anubis in there too, right?
Mhm.
The whole idea of the crossroads where you go
Yeah.
to meet the devil and.
Well, they say,
and all
yeah.
that.
I think it was Hermes that could go into the
Yeah.
underworld.
Yeah.
The only one that could go into the
Mercury.
underworld and come back.
Yeah.
Mercurius, yeah.
Mhm.
It's the eternal youth too, the puer aeternus or whatever, the Peter Pan.
Yes, we link that with the sun archetype too, actually.
Mhm.
And the messenger, you know, Gemini is also the messenger. It's interesting because I'm going to do the planets as well, so if you feel some things are missing, it'll probably show up in the planet that rules that sign. You know, and this is an ongoing system that we can develop together, actually. So I'm just offering what I've collected and what I think is interesting.
You have a very 12th house, beautiful artistic way of doing it, and I didn't read. I'm having a major Pluto too, so you know that last thing to come and hit the ground for me.
I hope it's not too 12th house, as long as you can follow it. Okay. I like to make it artistic and beautiful, but I want to also make sure. I have a lot of Scorpios. I wanted to have substance to like get to the depths of something. So okay, can we go into Cancer? Yeah. Okay, so Cancer is the Chariot. Now, this is the one I have the most difficult time with intuitively understanding the connection between Cancer and the Chariot, but over the years it's starting to become a little more clear to me. Cancer is the driver. The fence, that I understand. The containment part of Cancer, I get that. I see that need to contain the emotions. And if you think about the mother or the shell, it's a lot about containing energy in our home as a container. And of course, under this, other archetypes are the home, the box. We like to keep all our memories in collectible little boxes, right? Scrapbooks. The source, in the horoscope, the Cancer house is the base. I think of that as the source of the horoscope of all our memories and our ancestry, and it's like this deep well, and that's very linked to Cancer, to the well of the self. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Marion Woodman. I love her work. I always recommend her work for women especially. And she talks a lot about the well as an archetype of the self, the unconscious. Of course, the crab, birth and death, the Chariot of reincarnation, receptivity, understanding, acting on severity, which is interesting because Cancers are often touted as being very emotional. But I think it's almost like that need we have for the severity, of experience or feelings. That's how we access our feelings, is through severe conditions, right?
I heard it's a Scorpio in a house coat.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard Cancer
Yeah.
does. They're really Scorpio.
You see it when Cancers are angry, and the Cancers will tell you they don't forget. Even more than Scorpios, Cancers are like, I may forgive, but I do not forget. And their memories are like
But it's the cardinal water signs. It has the most outward push of power.
Yeah.
You ever seen a mom chastising a kid for running across the street with the cars going by? That's an anger coming out.
Yeah.
They say the opposite. They say the exact thing that they least want to hear about themselves.
Right.
Like, oh, I am. This is such a terrible
Nurturing.
dress, and like if you agree with them, you know.
That's any woman, come on.
What's that?
The driver.
Yeah, this is the part I was telling you that I was having a difficult time, because when I think of the image of the Chariot or that archetype, that tarot card, you see the driver having to balance the opposite energies, the opposing forces of the mind, and I realized, well, Cancer does follow Gemini, so it's that in our evolution is that idea of reining in these opposing forces and governing it through feelings, like bringing the feeling element in. It's the first time we get to water. It's the first sign of water. So it's like, how do we, instead of constantly feeling stuck in this battleground of the mind, of the opposites, it's like being able to hold the tension of the opposites and go to feeling. And I do experience that with a lot of my clients in psychoanalysis, where it's like you get to that point and everyone says this to me, like, okay, what do I do? I understand there's this and there's this problem, what do I do? Now they don't want to feel. They just keep, what do I do?
Right.
So that's where the Cancer element is like, can you just contain it? We talk a lot in psychoanalysis about containment. Can you contain it? Can you just contain, if you have a sense of containment, and that's the good mother. That's when we need the good mother to allow us to feel, go to the feeling level, stop trying to figure it out with your mind.
And isn't that where the doing will then come from? If you sit with it and you contain it?
Yeah, then it's
Then
like,
it's
then
an
you're the
authentic
driver.
doing.
Then
Yeah.
you're the driver.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the doing is coming from the experience rather than from a need to control the experience. It's coming actually from.
Then you're listening to the feelings, which if they're not driving you, if you're able to contain them, then you can use them intuitively to guide you and help you. Yeah.
I think the word instinct comes in here.
Yeah.
Because at that point, your greater force is driving.
Yeah.
You name the steering.
Yeah.
That's the cardinal element.
Yeah.
This is forward moving, but you're released into receptivity of a higher force.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. I find a lot of times working with people that it's very common for people to have dreams where they're not the driver. How many of you have had dreams where other people are driving the car? When you have those dreams, it's telling you you're out of touch with your feelings. You are not in touch with your instincts. Exactly. That you need to do some more work to be driving the car consciously.
How do you get close to the
surrender
Cancer?
comes into the Cancer realm?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm sure it's there somewhere because I do believe in all the signs. All of it's almost like it's such an integral system that I don't want to exclude it. You know, because in every sign I feel all the other signs are contained somehow. But it's since we're in the Virgo analyzing stage, we're breaking it down. We'll keep it in its category for now, and then we'll figure out in the end with the Pisces how to tie it all together. So for now we'll see where it really belongs. But I bet it ties in. I'm into the way everything connects.
Earlier, did you say fence or defense?
Well, both, actually. I think I said fence, but it's interesting that defense comes from the word fence.
Means of the fence.
Yeah.
Defense.
The Cancer issue, I have an online astrology magazine called Constellation. You can check it out. It's free. It's really just a gallery space. For
What's the website?
astrologers. Constellation and constellationmag.com. But what I wanted to say is that in the Cancer issue, we had on the cover a fence, and people said, "Why a fence? Why do you have a fence on the cover for Cancer? What does that have to do? It feels so harsh." I said, "Because it's boundary. It's defense.
Yeah, how do you get close?
Like
How do you break
Michelle.
through that?
How do you break the defensiveness?"
How do you get close to the Cancer? Yeah, I really want to know.
Tell them they look good in the dress.
Doesn't work. Nothing.
Well, what's
You
worked
have to
for
make,
me
you have to
is
make them feel secure. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, was the plain truth and insult.
You have to sob in their arms at some point. You know, I mean, really, that to open up. If you show them your insides, then only then and only then are they going to feel like they can show you yours. Really.
Oh, they can be the caretaker without letting you in. I've experienced that.
See, but
Yeah.
now this is tricky because now we're like, and we do this as astrologers, don't we? That it's like a Cancer. I mean, you know, hopefully the idea of going through all this is realize how complex people are. It's like you're talking about appealing to the Cancer part of someone's nature. You know, depending on if it sounds like you're talking about obviously the sun sign in Cancer.
I got a daughter that's a Cancer. I've had girlfriends that are Cancer.
Sun in Cancer.
You can get so close. You get like so close, and then no further.
That's that fence, huh?
So what I would say in this respect is that for you to work on your inner Cancer, look at where that is in your horoscope, and if you can work on healing that, you'll see a difference in them. You will in your relationship.
My wife has Mercury in Cancer, and if I tell her something, she just goes over her head. But if I make it emotional, if I make it so like there's life and death at stake, and I'll start off a statement like, "You gotta listen to this. People are gonna hurt," and she's like, and then she totally hears everything I say. She hears everything.
Yes, appealing to the feelings. Okay.
Appeal to the emotions.
You got
Cancer doesn't want us to move on, does it? Okay,
because they're the
Leo.
healers. They want to heal.
Sorry,
You know.
Cancer, we gotta go to Leo.
Leo's
Cancers
waiting.
don't like to let go.
You don't wanna
Not
keep
like
Leo.
to
No, you don't.
Yeah, Leo, we cannot keep
You may
Leo.
never get off of Leo.
So, can you guess what the archetype of Leo would be from the tarot deck? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, strength.
Strength. Yeah.
The lioness. If you think about it, it's like not it. Even in that image, it's like she's not afraid to put her head in the lion's mouth, you know. But it's through taming the instincts. So the archetypal energies around Leo have to do with force and developing your will, like that kind of force. Power, lust. It's another name for that tarot card
Yeah,
actually in the
Crowley.
Crowley deck.
Yeah.
Fortitude, the conquered lion, which is a symbol of our instincts. Durga, which is a Hindu goddess, also in her story, you see her with the lion. Lucifer, transformed into light. The enchantress, the strength of love, union, ecstasy, the actor, the life force, the solar plexus, the lover, the snake of knowledge and delight, prana, which is another is a Sanskrit word or yogic word for the life force, the breath, and of course the cat. So there's some images for Leo. So I would say when it comes to looking at your own horoscope, you know, and I forgot to ask who's Leo. Full moon, happy full moon in Leo.
Leo rising.
Leo rising.
Leo moon.
Yay, happy full moon. Happy
Leo South Node.
Yay. Leo South Node. We love our Leo South Node. Leo Venus. Ooh, we love the rocks.
Jupiter.
Saturn, Pluto.
You said Leo's a cat. Is there an astrology sign that relates to a dog?
Yes, Cancer.
Cancer does.
Cancer's
Cancer,
dogs.
yeah.
What about Cancer or Virgo?
Virgo's pets. Virgos are small pets.
Well-
yeah, and I think that
So loving.
yeah, it's something about that.
It's that domestic vibe too.
Unconditional love, you know.
I would think dog is Pisces.
Yeah.
It's linked often with Cancer, but it's God's spelled out.
Right.
Dogs are great. And cats too. I've been really enjoying the cat energy at Kelly's house. He's got 2 cats. I miss my cat. Cats are great. I really feel the cat energy around this Leo full moon. Yeah. So, and I'm giving you, you probably notice I'm giving you less personal archetypal descriptions, you know, that you're used to hearing, you know, like with Leo. The actor, I guess, is the one that would be more commonly connected to Leo, right?
A performer.
Or performer. So think in your horoscope, wherever you have Leo is where you're really developing strength and taming your instincts. It's like the idea of living out your.
The clock's a Leo.
Well, you know, the cats are always chasing the bird. So in your horoscope, think of wherever the Leo energy vibrates, think of how you would activate that in terms of what I was talking about, the lust energy, and it's like living out your lust in a way that in Sanskrit or in Eastern philosophy, they have this idea of vasanas, which is they're considered our accumulated tendencies, our desires, like the things, you know, it's like you say if you have a vasana for strawberry shortcake, you're going to be reincarnated until you exhaust that vasana. It's like when you're a child, you really see the vasanas. I want, you know, then you have very specific things that you want. And the idea is not to suppress those things, you know, but to tame them ultimately, you know, so they don't have power over you. And sometimes the only way to do that is to literally exhaust them. And that's where Leos are like, it's okay to play. It's okay to play and, you know, live out your lust. And often wherever that Leo energy is where you have to do that, you know, you're drawn to really do that. And you often have a lot of lustful energy in that area of your horoscope too, you'll see, wherever Leo is. Of course, it's also because that's where there's a sun energy, which we'll get to. Okay, Virgo, the Hermit. I'm giving you the archetype, but how many people have found Virgo?
Virgo's in it.
We got lots of Virgo moons in this group.
Oh, nice. I'm Pisces moon. We're such a good match.
Yeah, the Virgo moons are quite anal. Get it?
It's funny, my neck.
I think I reorganize the room before we leave.
Oh, good. I was hoping I was asking my Neptune rising to try to feel out what this group would want. So, and I don't usually do such like analytical lectures like this, like where it's all broken down into pieces. But I felt I should do this. I see why now, fellow Virgo. Get it down into. You guys love details, right? I see you all with your notes. Strong Virgo. I want all the details. So, of course, Virgo is a very strong archetype now because Saturn, you know, which is our great teacher, is in Virgo. So we're all really learning powerful Virgo lessons.
What's in Virgo?
Saturn, yeah.
Okay.
For all of us, we're all learning how to incorporate that into the structure of our lives and our bones, you know, getting these lessons down. Of course, and you know what's interesting about Virgo to me is that because Virgo rules the intestines, I think of it as that part of us that has to figure out what's a nutrient from a toxin. You know, the same way the intestines do, and of course assimilate everything. So, in your horoscope, think about that. You know, whatever that is. It's like, how do you do that? How do you distill that into something that you can actually use? You know, and that is nutritious for you.
It's kind of like editing, like when you're doing movies. You got to figure out what stays and what goes.
Yeah. There's a lot of editing and refining with Virgo. And some of the other archetypal energies for Virgo are...
What's the card?
The Hermit, sorry. Do you know that card? It's the wise man in the dark with the lantern. It's on the Led Zeppelin album.
Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
Uranus, Pluto, and Virgo, baby.
Yeah, exactly. They had a whole thing around that, like how it tied into the, you know. So, yeah, the Helper is a major Virgo archetype. The Sage, the Ancient One, Prudence, the Cult, occult light. The light, the path to initiation, the pet, the secret seed, the pilgrim soul, the perfectionist, the veiled lamp, the critic, the servant, the analyst, response, intelligence of will.
Serve or die.
Serve or die.
Also, I think the mentor is coming back to Virgo a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the Zen master, Mr.
Yeah.
Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi is a good hermit figure, for sure. Yeah. And intimacy with the self, I think, really, is Virgo, just like the glyph indicates, coming home to oneself, And Virgos, if they're unconscious, often experience that as self-consciousness, The idea is you're supposed to be conscious of the self, but when you're not, you actually feel self-conscious. Because you're aware of how you're not conscious of yourself, and suddenly you feel everyone else is but you, and they can see all your flaws, right? So.
One of my friends who has 5 planets in Virgo, he said that he felt the archetype was about being the witness.
Oh.
Even though you said it was Gemini, but they have that Mercury connection.
The Mercury, yeah.
Seeing things.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like this is some law, because I made up this system. I didn't make it up. I'm saying, you can change it around from your own experience. This is just the one from my experience what resonates, and also things that have been collected over time that I found. But so wherever that Virgo area of your horoscope is, often there's a need for more time alone, to take more hermit time, a deeper intimacy with the self, more self-analysis. Often a need for simplicity in that area. And if it's unconscious, you usually experience it as worry and neurosis and being overly critical, overly analytical. But if it's conscious, you experience it as you do experience it as that Zen kind of simplicity, or that deep connection with yourself, like really calling your spirit back. So the hermit is a good archetypal figure to work with for that. And trusting it's really about trusting your own light, and then that way you can be a helper for others, because it's like you found your own way through the darkness. That's
The
really
most helpful people I know on this earth have been Virgo. My favorite
God bless them.
friends. Yeah, they're really wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely, the healer.
Lovers of accuracy.
Yes. They're the devil's in the details. Love Virgo. Yeah. What else can I say about Virgo? There's so much to say,
The chiropractor. The acupuncturist.
The need to be healthy, but health, again, I like to think of health more as what I was saying with the intestines, like figuring out it's figuring out what is actually nutritious for your system versus toxic.
I think that they're alchemists in the truest sense of the words, in that they're constantly refining and distilling themselves into a pure.
Yeah, I see a lot of Virgos doing that shamanic thing, like the Native American shamanic thing.
Yeah.
A lot of Virgos are attracted to that.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. In terms of, specifically in terms of what you were saying about, something has to be discarded and something's kept. But, in that sense, the thing that's discarded, for a Virgo, I don't think it's really about that. It's about it's taking that toxin and then and finding a way to bring it back where it can be assimilated. You know what I'm saying? So it's the alchemy is really good in that sense, because it's realizing a toxin, but it's also realizing what skill you need to gain. Virgo's about skill in order to transmute that toxin and make it useful. Does that make any sense?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, and then Cancer comes by with a
turning
chariot
positive into
to
a
pick it up
negative.
and take it to Scorpio to recycle it.
It's like turning a negative into a positive kind of thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Part of that, it's really where we get to refine. I mean, it's interesting how Virgos are often people with Sun in Virgo. Wherever that Virgo part of your horoscope is often where you want to, if you have that sense, you want to constantly redo it. Like you want to keep, like, there's got to be a better way, and like often it does often have to do with like scheduling things.
And you want it to be more efficient.
Or like a ritual. Virgo is very connected with rituals, so finding these perfect rituals, making And what's interesting, a lot of people don't realize Virgo is very much connected with the sign of magic, because when you perform magic, it's very precise. You have to do the ritual in a very specific way, or it doesn't work.
Like Vesta.
It's not like you can just change. Yeah, it's not like you can just change it out because you feel like it. It has to be.
And take
very
all
specific.
the extra words out.
Yeah, yeah.
What about the womb and the yoni energy of Virgo?
We'll talk about that actually. That I have that more linked the yoni with the moon archetype, with the planet moon, not planet, the luminary. Okay, let's move on to Libra. So who has strong?
Sun.
Great, great. Still the Libras, maybe that's sweet mirroring back. I love Libras. They make you feel good. The sweetness, that should be one for Libra. Libra is very sweet. So it's the archetype of justice. That one's a little more obvious. We see the judge with the scales. That's Libra. And in the Crawley deck, it's called adjustment. And some other archetypes for Libra are the sword and the balance, the union of the opposites, the judge, the jury, karma in action, the shadow, which we'll talk about, the mirror, inner truth, the partner, narcissus, equilibrium, inner truth, the other, the stranger, transition, faithful intelligence, and the devil peace.
The dancer. The dancer.
The dancer. You put the dancer under Libra.
Yeah.
I put it under Taurus, but Venus governs them both. So it's both grace and harmony and earth and.
It's actually, which one? Pisces. Dancer is Pisces. Neptune, actually. Because of, I mean, again, it's any.
They're the three most
art
art.
of
Yeah.
dance and
See, artists. I do art charts too.
Yeah, artistry, diplomat, absolutely.
You know what I find missing from Libra, and it may be because I'm a Virgo moon, but the function of the scales for most people was never the justice thing. I mean, how often do you go to court? Function of the scale is like determining what's a share. What, you know what I'm saying? It's determining
But in life, there's a lot of these experiences. Yes, absolutely. But judgment is a huge issue, and Libra is a huge issue in our horoscopes because it has a lot to do with our otherness. Like Gemini, where you first encounter the opposites.
That's not the way they do it. They parse very fine. Like a Libra can say the same sentence 3 times and mean 3 different things. They're parsing it really fine.
Libra, I was saying it's about relationship, figuring out, and in our relationships is where we figure out where we have strengths, where we have weaknesses. It's a mirror for us, right?
you see, when you go through that process
Yeah.
of figuring out what's too much, what's too little. No, I'm just saying, it's like it's about units somehow. There's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
about it that's about units
Mm-hmm.
of measurement somehow. You see what I'm saying? Because,
Yeah.
And I never hear anybody say that.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's psychologically, we really use the Libra energy mostly, like I was thinking about the mirror, like to see aspects of ourselves that are still unconscious, and we see it in the partner, and we see it in the other. Especially, it's the idea of using your judgment. Thinking about judgment, things that you're judgmental of, as the things that those are the specific things often we need to look at within ourselves. It's often the part of us that we've disowned in ourselves. So judgment is a great teacher. It's a very powerful teacher, and we're often afraid to admit that how much judgment goes on in our head. If you just watch your mind for a day, there's a lot of judgment going on. An awful lot. Even if we think we're the most open-minded people, it's judgment. It's a great spiritual practice actually to look at what you're judging. And then bring it back to yourself and say, okay, now how is this either unconscious aspect of myself or something that I've decided, I'm not that. It's that whole, we go through that at age 7, the process of this is me, this is not me. And that's where the split comes, and that's when the 7th house really starts to take a life of its own, the Libra house, the Libra function. So wherever Libra is in your horoscope is often where you're learning a lot about relationships, and you're having to face your own shadow. Now, of course, the 7th house in your horoscope is really where you face your shadow side, your descendant. But also wherever Libra is, often there's some shadow issues that you will really have to come to terms with in your relationships. And do you guys know about the concept of shadow? I mean, there's a lot of books out about it now. A lot of people talk about shadow.
A shadow?
Yeah. Yeah. Huh?
Not under the heading of astrology.
What's that?
No, I haven't read on it under astrology. It hasn't been called astrology.
But it's interesting that it was a Jungian concept that is now very...
The dark side of the force.
It's very it's tossed around all the time now in our language. You know, people take it for granted, but it's the idea of whatever is unconscious that it follows you. It's true. It follows you. It shows up in your relationships with your enemies, so-called enemies. It's interesting how the 7th house in the horoscope is called the house of open enemies. Well, it's your shadow. It's right there. It's like looking you in the eye. So, yeah. So look to that part of your horoscope to see where there's some shadow work to be done. Yeah.
It occurs to me that there's something about mastering the imbalance of what your shadow is, the judgment piece. And in fact, Saturn is exalted in Libra.
Yes.
You find that once you achieve mastery, the Saturn is the mastery planet.
Yeah.
Then you just achieve that balance, and then you're in harmony, and you're able to create balance for yourself and others.
Yeah.
As a resonance.
Yeah, that's right. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
Before she walked in, you had 22 people here mirroring your lecture.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry,
No. And you're the,
It's the tarot deck looking at you here.
We need to expand the tarot deck now anyway to include all of these, like Sedna and
Serious.
Okay. So any questions so far?
But don't you have to have your shadow to be balanced?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I recommend people working with, you have to work with the shadow. I recommend people work with their horoscope upside down, and say, if you do that, then that's your shadow. Just turn it upside down. And meet your other half.
Good technique.
Yeah. So that's why we often are attracted to people that fill up the empty parts of our horoscope.
Kelly's my choice. I do.
I felt you think it. I felt you think
I
it.
was just thinking that. It's my chart.
Sherene, I had
It's my
a
whole
comment.
7th house. That's so funny. Uh-oh, you're not on time.
Thank you.
Wasn't me.
19, 10, 15.
Do you work with interception? Is it, or no? Do you whole star?
I don't work with intercept.
You know, you put.
I like to give everyone a house.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Every sign deserves
With
a
this,
house.
because it makes it harder.
Yeah. That's why I like the whole sign system personally. I mean, I use the code, but even if there's an interception, I give it a house. I move it over. Yeah.
So you're saying interceptions always disrupt the game?
Interrupt the game. It just, it's kind of like saying, well, this archetype,
I would never
is
think
on the
that.
fringe. Maybe it can show you where you need to, it's like that archetypal energy has a harder time of taking ownership of the house, but you should give it that.
Not right.
Again, the idea is we want to manifest our horoscope, not be a victim of it. So we can, why not give it its own house? It needs to work somewhere. It needs a Cancer container, right? It can't be like hanging out there in no man's land between the houses. I feel bad for those times. The Pisces moon can't bear it. Okay, shall we move on to Scorpio? Yeah. Okay. Death.
Cancer without the
I have
house
more plans.
Oh, that's a card.
He said the cancer without the house coat.
Cancer without death. Don't thinking about it. Just do it.
Yeah, so who has the highest Scorpio? Sun?
Venus, Mercury.
I'm a Venus. And Jupiter. We love the occults.
I have Venus square Pluto, so my anima is very sexy.
Yes, I know. We already give your we'll give Kelly's anima Scorpio status. You want your anima to be a Scorpio. Okay, so here's some other little keywords for Scorpio. Like Scorpio, we want keywords. What's the archetype? What's that?
Archetype?
Archetype is death. Secret. Are we allowed to talk about them? But if you look at the Death Tarot card, it's a beautiful card actually because, actually it's very trendy now with the skull, the skeleton, very popular in clothing now. But also,
Scorpios
we're
are
really
coming out.
embracing our Scorpio archetypes now in fashion. But if you look in the background, there's the sunrise in that card, which often people don't notice. They freak out when they see that card. They always put that in the movies, right? The card. It's either that or the hangman, death of the hangman. They always do that, like super dramatic effect.
The tower.
And they're like, and so sometimes people think that someone's gonna die. It's like, yes, your ego. So.
If you're lucky.
That could be worse than
Yeah,
death
if you're
for
lucky.
some.
If you're lucky, right? Oh no, come back! Don't. Death is taking my Capricorn friend away.
He's going to release in the bathroom.
Oh yes, you're going to do a Scorpio act. Okay, other words for Scorpio are archetypes: the Grim Reaper, the Circle Completed,
Rebirth.
Absolutely, the Angel of Death, the Skeleton, Transformation, Reincarnation, Change, Sunrise, two, not just the Taxman. It's funny, I realize I always have I have a lot of planets in Scorpio, and I have a very close relationship with my accountants. Whoever tax people. It's like an ongoing, my life is filled with tax people. It's like then I wonder. I have to learn to love the tax people.
The midwife.
The midwife. Well, that's interesting. I love that. That's good. Liberation, the tunnel. I love that. Scorpio. The eagle, of course. Thanatos, which is the death instinct in the Freudian psychology. Birth, the detective, the great snake, the Kundalini, metamorphosis, the scorpion, of course, motion, imaginative intelligence, and the American Indian.
The American Indian?
Yeah, they got the shaman thing too.
Yeah.
Why American Indian? Why would a race be under the sun?
Well, it's not really a race so much as it's an archetype, I think,
The eagle.
Yeah, like rising up, Yeah, the eagle.
Yeah, the eagle.
Yeah.
Plus, just the primitive
I have
man
a
in
zoom
nature.
ring on with an eagle on it right here. Scorpio.
What about the Phoenix?
Absolute Phoenix, yeah. We put that under Pluto, but I oh, that too. Which one? Sex?
You did too.
I just heard the Phoenix.
Yeah. Yeah. As you can tell, so I'm trying to give you some that maybe you haven't thought of too. Like a lot of them, you take for granted too, but I'm trying to find some that maybe are not as obvious.
The soldier.
Yeah, definitely. Military is definitely Scorpio.
You know what?
Mars.
I was watching the Rome series, and they have these historical notes, and it said that the Romans would always march to war in March, Aries, and their war season would go all the way to October to Scorpio, and then they would rest from Mars to Mars.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's interesting. It's true.
Magic?
So which one?
Magic or magician?
That's Mercury. Yeah, actually, and that's why Virgo is often connected with magic too. But Scorpio is more of. I see why you're saying that. That kind of maybe black magic. Yeah. Virgo Scorpio mix.
I think Scorpio is more like instinctual sorcerer magic, going to the source,
it's
in the blood.
Kundalini, so it has to do with like Tantra would fall under Scorpio, tantric practices, which is very. It's interesting because if you look at the description of alchemy, it really is. It's the same as Tantra, actually. So in that sense, that is a form of magic. So I would put that together.
How about bondage?
That's another.
Is that why you can't get closer?
What about you, the therapist, the hypnotist?
Oh, yes.
The analyst is actually Virgo. That's my midheaven, which is interesting. But psychology is Scorpio like the, you know, trying to penetrate to the core of someone's psyche. Penetration is Scorpio too.
Is Thanatos, is that the death wish?
Thanatos, yeah.
Or is that
It's a death instinct. It is. It's a death wish. Yeah. It's an
It's a-
unconscious death wish.
Okay, so it's not a kill wish. In other words, but it's literally.
It's that part of us that I think, you know, we realize we have to constantly change and die before we die. But if it's unconscious, we go suicidal. You know, we
Okay.
just want things to change and we can't bear the pain. So it's
I've had two
not
near
to
death.
like reduce
Gotcha.
suicide to that, but
Right.
you know.
Would you put sexuality and passion into this category?
Yes. Yes.
Orgasms are little deaths in French.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Petite, yes. There's so many more. Trust me. I don't in any way profess to have all of the archetypes here. I'm just giving you a little chunk, something to work. You know, just to start thinking this way. But there's so many missing from
This
this list. I mean,
Bob Dylan quote comes to mind: "He who is not busy born is busy dying."
yeah. Yeah. Being born is
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It is. Messengers. There's such a beautiful relationship between Scorpio and Gemini too. It's one of those 6-8 vibration relationships where it's such a healing, transforming relationship. Okay, Sagittarius.
Wait, you're Sag rising.
Sag rising. Who else? Did I miss you, Sag? Couple of things. Okay.
I only have 5 things in that sign.
Super Sag. She's a super Sag. You should be in the book like next to the Sagittarius.
He's saturated.
The sage.
Sag.
I
Sagittarius.
marry them a lot. No.
Super Sag is a nice name. Okay. So Sagittarius is the archetype of temperance, which is interesting because a lot of people think temperance. I always think of excess when you think of Sag, right? It's another version of Sag that you don't know about. Sagittarius are going to finally get their due. Art is another name of the tarot card in the Crowley deck. In alchemy, you see the alchemy in the deck, actually.
Yeah.
In the imagery. So here's some other ones for Sag. Adaptation, the teacher, the way, higher spaces, verification, intelligence. It's the intelligence of probation or trial, divine wisdom, the fourth dimension, the angel Michael, the rainbow's promise, the pointer, the gypsy, Iris, universal life, the philosopher, the quest of universal medicine, mantra, and the centaur, of course.
Traveler.
Yeah, that's the gypsy, the traveler, yeah. And I think the reason that, and actually in the inner guide system, it is your inner guide energy. It's the ninth house, which is the Sagittarius energy. And the idea is that, I think that the whole idea of temperance in this case has to do with the way Sagittarian takes the knowledge and all the experience up to this point, and of course the opposite sign being Gemini, taking all the bits and pieces, all the little facts and figures, and it tempers it into experience. And it's also the bridge, you know, between the higher realms and our everyday experience, which is Gemini. So that's where I think it gets well, you'll see in Jupiter is more of the rainbow imagery, but it is the rainbow's promise we have here. So the idea, I think, is wherever Sagittarius is, yes, that's where you're a teacher. It's where you're meant to teach somehow. But also it's like where there's a need for temperance of the extremes of Scorpio. I think it's like coming out of that sign of Scorpio, you learn the Sagittarius how to temper those extremes, you know. And that's the beauty of Sagittarians, even though they can be very excessive in a way, they're not like in the same way that Scorpios are they? You know, there's never that like gutted extreme where they're so attached. It's like they found a way. It's like they don't deny the extremes. But they really do have that art of tempering it and enjoying it in a different way.
It's
So,
interesting that astronomically, Jupiter does have a ring,
yeah.
you know, around it. It's just
Yeah.
real subtle,
Yeah.
saying don't cross that overindulgence
There's
barrier.
still that- yeah. Sagittarius feel it. Like you'll see Sagittarius will bring themselves back. Like they'll still have that residue of Scorpio, and they can go to extremes, but they have an innate sense of bringing themselves back before it turns dark and ugly. Of course, they've had Pluto on their
Yeah.
And they're constantly, so maybe we can't, the last, you can't, like, if you look at Britney Spears, you know,
What is that?
yeah. She's on the galactic center though. But you know, so some Sagittarius still go off the deep end. But I think even going off the deep end, the idea is to get this. Hopefully, if they survive, to get them back. You know.
It's the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, wherever you have Sag is often where you do have to cultivate temperance in your horoscope, right? Okay. How are you guys doing?
It's interesting that Sagittarius in Greek actually means to sacrifice. Because Chiron made the ultimate sacrifice, giving up his life for Prometheus, and he was exalted into the stars as the centaur teacher. And the word Sagittarius means sacrifice because he sacrificed his life for another, his immortal life. Yeah.
Thank you, Sag Rising.
No problem.
He's like a walking. We like to collect all these connections. Okay. Capricorn. Yes.
Capricorn Mars with Pluto right there.
Exalted Mars.
I'm looking for fire.
Yes, here's our Capricorn.
6 planets in Capricorn, that kid right there.
You don't have to sample your discs.
Yeah.
He can sell them for you.
He is. Look, he's setting everything up. Embodiment of the beautiful Capricorn soul right here. I'm a big fan. You have to read his poetry, this kid.
When he was 2, he used to say, "Dad, the rules are..." He would remind me of my own rules. For real.
Your temperance factor.
Come to temperance, Sag.
I got 4 planets in that.
I know so much. I thought you were Capricorn. I forgot you were an Aquarius. I got confused. So after reading you, I thought you were Capricorn. Yeah.
Capricorn rising. It's only 1 degree. So I'm thinking about it.
Oh, you're like getting hit right now, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell me. Have a major.
Don't tell me.
No. You gotta work. When we get to Pluto, take notes. Work with that energy. It's good. That's the one to
Well, I'm
really work
doing
with.
okay right now.
Oh, yeah, no, it's brilliant. No,
I had my knees replaced last year.
Oh, dear.
You've got 1 more week. She's 1 degree. I thought I was doing really well.
Yeah, no. You are. It's not like the moon.
I said that.
I'm not going in. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying take notes for the positive.
Okay.
Take notes because, you know, all hell's going to break loose. Okay, Capricorn. So I think I already told you the archetype, didn't I?
No.
Okay. I did mention.
We want to hear it again.
I did mention it. It's the devil. Old pan.
What you see is all there is.
What you see is all there is. And you see Capricorns that say it is what it is. That's their favorite. So many people with strong Capricorn said to me, "Oh, because I'm so Neptune." They say, "Sherene, it is what it is." Right. Stop with your Neptune. That's what it is. That's it. When you see, that's it. Like you ask them, no, that's why. That's all there is. That's all there is to it. Okay.
I know Capricorns always say, "Plan your work and work your plan."
Yeah, plan your work and work your plan. That's good. They're the tester, the establishment, matter, the cube of perfect understanding, the forces of time, Satan, fate, city hall, society, the mountain, the eye of the father, the world father, the watching eye, the blackness of ignorance, eroticism, the path of the tradition of darkness, Shiva, opacity, the scapegoat, the clown, and the climber. Yeah, the climber.
What was the cube of
The cube of perfect understanding. Yeah. What?
I would never have associated the clown with Capricorn.
Oh yeah, a lot of comedians have strong Capricorn.
Well, because they have that dry wit, like the English humor.
Yeah.
I see Leo's the clown too, with the costumes and the. But Capricorn, I see the dry wit big time.
The
They're funny.
Yeah, you really see the scapegoat in Capricorn. Often people with strong Capricorn have the scapegoat in their families too. Yeah.
For those of us that don't take Virgo.
Oh yes, the list. Yeah.
There's a Virgo.
Yeah. Okay. You can get a lot of these in that book I was recommending, the Inner Guide. It has even a more extensive list than this. I mean, this is just I just took some things and made my own too.
Did you see the movie Juno?
Yes.
Just that kind of reminded me of Capricorn.
Yeah.
It's just so real but fun.
Hey,
Doing really well.
there's the escape to goat. No, just kidding.
The scapegoat is back.
See what was going on in the other room.
Yeah. What?
I think they rule time too. They have a lot to
Time,
do with
yeah,
time.
that was on the list, yeah.
Space and time.
Yeah, time, the bones, more Saturn maybe, but,
That's why they always kill us Aries. It's like we can win the battle, but they always end up winning the war like 10 years later.
yeah,
The government.
yeah, the strategy,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've moved on and have forgot about it, and they're like,
Yeah.
crush you now. Hey, I thought we were done with that.
Because Aries is always moving on 5 minutes later.
I totally identify with that.
The rules are, I think often wherever Capricorn is in your chart, you do, often we have either, in Saturn for this matter too, we have too many rules or too few rules. They say it's good just to have like 3, no more than 3 absolute rules. Saturn likes 3.
That's all I can remember. Anyway.
What if your Saturn's in Capricorn?
Yeah, and then really.
Does that mean I get 6?
You get 6 rules.
But you do need some rules. You know, it's either too. If we have too many rules, we feel really restricted, and if we have too few rules, we feel restricted by the fact that we don't have any rules, and we feel like we're floundering and we're wasting time. Often, and we're just saying we're saying yes to everything. Then basically, if we don't have any rules, and Saturn is the law of no. So, by virtue of that, Capricorn is really, I think, that part of our horoscope where we need to learn to say no and honor our time. You know, use your time wisely, cultivate discipline, and consider that part of your chart where you have to work to achieve mastery. And often by doing that, you have to have pretty strong boundaries in that area and set up your own rules. Like, don't give the rules to don't let other people set up the rules for you in that area of your horoscope. You're often tested. Wherever Capricorn is in your horoscope is often where you're tested, right? Think about it. There's a lot of tests there.
For instance, Saturn conjunct my sun. Neptune on the other side, mind you, but yeah, so that applies. I mean,
Yeah.
I may as well be a Capricorn also.
So when you say wherever Capricorn is, are you almost saying too wherever Saturn is?
Yeah. We'll do Capricorn first. We're gonna get to Saturn, but they're similar in that way. Yeah.
The taskmaster.
So if you're being tested, then you're not owning your Capricorn?
Yeah, and often I notice it's also where we have fear. Capricorn, being the devil, has a lot to do with fear. You know, looking at your fear, like fear, shame, and guilt. I always connect with Capricorn also, and wherever you have Capricorn in your horoscope is often where you have those issues. So you get tested on that, and often, like for instance, people that have, let's say you have Capricorn ruling your work house and you want to quit your job, people will be like, oh my God, how can you give up such a solid job? Are you crazy? And then that's your test. Now you might buy into the establishment and fear, or you say, no, I want to do my own thing.
So if you own the energy, then you become the master of
Yeah,
the energy.
then you don't have fear. Fear, false evidence appearing real. No more fear. But Capricorn will test you on that first.
False evidence.
Appearing real.
Oh.
From conversations with God. False evidence appearing real. And that's why, you know, again, that mudra, like what you see is all there is. So it's like feeling like nothing better is coming. That's it. And like what you see in the establishment, that's all there is. And what society says is all there is. You know, it's all of these things. Breaking through that. So, okay, let's get on to Aquarius. This is our sun sign right now. Yes, we're in the wonderful Aquarius energy now.
She's Aquarian too over there.
Yay. Aquarius.
Oh, two.
It's such a beautiful archetype. Aquarius is the archetype of the star, which in the tarot deck follows the Tower card, you know, the progression after the crisis. It's like the calm after the storm. It's the star of the Magi, and I love that we have an Aquarius making a movie with that in the title. It's very cool. It's Sirius, destiny, natural intelligence, revelation, meditation, astrology, brotherhood or sisterhood, the imagination of nature, the dog star, the star of Bethlehem, the pool of memory. That's why I rely on Kelly also to always pull out these things, all the connections. Satwa, which is like a true knowledge, truth. The group, the friend, the genius, hope, humanity, the revolutionary, Tinkerbell,
Kelly.
the unveiling of nature, the scientist, the exile, altruistic love, freedom, the free man or woman, Soma, the metasexual lover.
What's that?
The bear.
Metasexual?
What is that?
It's like beyond gender.
It's also when you have sex on all the levels, astral, mental,
Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah.
physical,
Yeah, it is.
not just
All-
physical.
It's true. Meta.
Meta, yeah.
Exactly.
All at once.
All at once.
Thank you.
It's the ultimate high.
Experience.
Especially when you do it on the side of a mountain on the lightning storm.
You have to be an Aquarius to get there.
Take your word for it.
Okay.
Too many conditions. I think a
You
frequency
didn't get
problem.
struck being an Aquarius, you get struck by lightning.
I've always wanted to get struck by lightning.
I know. The victory.
I used to fly a kite with a big metal thing hanging from it and try to get struck. And I had a sword I would pull out and go, "Come on, strike me." I was like that guy on Forrest Gump. "Is this all you got, God? Give me the bolts, the full bolt." They would never strike me. They had compassion for my arrogance.
Insanity.
So Don Quixote is in there somewhere?
Should be, right? Yeah.
Some
Well, it's
tribe-
funny because, Balanchine was an Aquarius, and that was
Yeah.
one of his most famous ballets, right?
Yeah.
Don Quixote. And he played Don Quixote himself.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
I heard that there is more like predominance of Aquarian energy in charts of people who are in insane asylums than other planets.
Well, Hall of Fame, too. Often the crazy
It's a fine
genius.
line.
Lincoln was an Aquarian.
Crazy genius.
You stick out one way or another.
Yeah. It's a great sign. It's a great archetype. And it exists in all of us, right?
Right.
So again, wherever that Aquarius aspect, I wish I had time to see all of your charts and see. It would be so fun to do work with these things. But that's where you need to, most importantly, I think, dance to the beat of your own drummer, obviously, and break the status quo consciously. Yeah.
So you keep saying wherever it falls in your chart, but
Yeah.
what if it falls in its own house? Like I have nothing to stick it onto. Like,
Well, you mean it's in the 11th house?
yeah,
Aries
a lot
rising.
of Taurus, but a lot of my signs are on their own house. So I'm like, I sort of get stuck. I'm like, well, what is that?
That's even better. It's like doing its own thing. It's doing its own. It's that area. So it's
Well, the signs and the houses aren't the same. The houses
Yeah,
are the
exactly.
fields of life experience, the topics of your life. The signs are spiritual principles you need to apply to them.
So it would be like activating this star principle, this altruistic love, this revolutionary energy within yourself in the area of groups, friendships, your goals in life.
The 11th is a place of acquisition, so
Yeah.
as you actualize the star archetype, you can acquire, you can become more.
It's realizing what you're wishing for, yeah. Like, what do you wish for? So for you, when something's doubled like that, I think it's even more important, And also, if you go by whole sign, the whole sign system, you can give it energy in the next house anyway, right? So I would look at that.
Do you have any comment on North Node in Aquarius?
I have the North Node in Aquarius. Hello, sister. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the nodes, I think, are our purpose, right? It's like it's a part of our evolution. So, it's showing you that to balance out your past life tendencies or karma in Leo, that you would definitely want to activate or actualize this archetype. It's a very important archetype, don't you find? Like, do you feel yourself wanting to find your tribe and your people and do something for humanity? Very
Sure,
important to
okay,
do something.
and new things
New things
to
and
learn,
helping-
new things to develop,
Yeah.
and to become.
Absolutely.
Is that what you think?
So if your nodes fall in any, that's a good question. So obviously, if your nodes fall in any of these, of course, if the sun falls, it's very important that the sun, moon, the ascendant, and the node, and Saturn. I think all of those really definitely work. I mean, work on the whole chart, but definitely work on those. You want to really actualize those potentials in your horoscope.
You and I both have that Leo South Node and North Node Aquarius, and we're all about, like, it's not a do-it-yourself lifetime, it's a do it with others lifetime.
Do it with others makes you so happy.
Like, I can make a movie about me, but I want to make a movie about astrology and astrologers.
Instead of it just being about like how cute you
and
are.
the North Node just but the North Node just went into Aquarius, so it's coming back, So we're all faced
We're
with
all
this.
going to be going through these lessons. Yeah, like get out, enough with like the celebrities, like let's get on with something bigger. Like it's not just, about being like on the cover of whatever, having your name in lights. There's deeper work to be done here.
Unite the
That's
tribes.
all fine and entertaining, but let's get down to work. So, okay, we're almost there. Pisces. Pisces. I'm a Pisces. So, Pisces is actually the archetype of the moon, which is confusing. It's not like the planet, the moon. In tarot, the moon has more to do with those different phases and kind of that night energy that comes out after dusk. That's Pisces. So it's that twilight time, or the dusk energy. And Pisces is also the ruler of flux and reflux. Medusa, Hecate, the fish god, body knowledge, trance, the compassionate one, the land of dreams. It's our corporal intelligence, our body intelligence. The land of the gods, the mystic, the dreamer, the synthesizer, the mermaid, the role taker, the dancer, fantasy, tamas, which means like this little bit of this energy that can make you sleepy, music, metaphysical strength, and the poet.
Percy Shelley had a Pisces moon too.
Yeah, we love the poets.
Is there a connection with drugs?
Escapism, yeah.
Escapism, yeah. That's Neptune too. Yeah, illusions also I would put here. Pisces or Neptune. So, yeah, I think wherever you find this Pisces energy in your horoscope is often where there's a sense of almost like a blind spot, I find, like a feeling of disillusionment somehow. You go through it because you realize that either you idealize, you have some sense of idealizing, whether it's, especially if it's in the 7th house, you would idealize your partner. And if it's in your 2nd house, you may idealize money. Things like that. So I think to work with it consciously, the idea is you need outlets for the imagination in that area of your horoscope, and you need to find a more soulful connection to express that energy instead of projecting that luminous spiritual energy onto something external. It's like really owning that and having a direct experience with it.
So if you have Jupiter in Pisces, would that mean you have a really big blind spot?
Yeah. Are we running out of time? I see people packing up. Is it almost?
Oh no, you got 15 minutes.
Okay.
You got 15 minutes.
Giving me money, okay.
The martyr and the martyr.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yes. Yeah, the martyr and monk. Okay, let's quickly go on to the planets since we're running out of time. So the sun, we'll start with the sun. The sun is the eternal youth, the center of the self, the eternal child, the ceaseless giver, energy, illumination, Apollo, Christ, regeneration. I'm just going to give you this list because I need like at least 10 minutes to give you guys the meditation after all this. The time went too fast.
We usually go overboard.
Okay, good. The moon is the sun in the tarot deck, by the way, is called the sun. The moon, though, is not the moon. The moon is the high priestess, actually. And that is our spiritual mother. Initiation, Sophia, Artemis, the wise woman, Hecate, the Madonna, that's the Yoni. Sanctuary.
Did you say Madonna?
The Madonna.
Oh, because Madonna has the moon on the ascendant. She's the
isn't that
expression of the
interesting?
Madonna.
She really is the Madonna.
In Virgo, the Virgin, like a virgin.
So funny. She really is. Juno, which is interesting. The mother of the world.
Virgo moon.
Our anima, goddess of the night, and the priestess. This is all moon. And Mars. Mars is the tower. Where the lightning strikes the building. And Mars is the force of nature, exciting intelligence, the fall of Adam, the pride of intellect, the dark night of the soul, infatuation, catastrophe, the crisis point, the husband, Tower of Babel, and the ruined tower. That's kind of like what Mars transits feel like, huh? Inside your horoscope.
What transit to Mars?
Yeah. Jupiter. Jupiter is the wheel of fortune in the horoscope. So chance. I know I'm skipping around. I'm going to get to it. This is a no planetary order. Wheel of fortune, chance, the law of karma, the Sphinx, the three fates, the guru, or the remover of darkness. That's really what guru means, or teacher. The cycle of events, the circle of time, excess, rotation, true will, wealth and poverty, expansion, lady luck, the seekers, and the reward.
How is Jupiter? Isn't that usually considered Saturn?
It's more, Jupiter rules the realm of like the cycle, cyclical. And I mean, karma shows up in Libra too. It just depends. It shows up in different facets. So in this one, we're talking about just the cyclical nature of Jupiter, of karma. And where's Venus? Here's Venus. Okay. Venus is the empress, or the pregnant mother in the tarot deck. And we talked about the spiritual side of the feminine, the moon, and now Venus is more the earthly side of the feminine. She's connected to Aphrodite, Isis, Eve after her union with Adam, the devouring mother, the goddess of beauty and love, Mother Nature, Kali, Demeter, Lilith, alchemical salt, wife, luminous intelligence, and the corn woman. That's Venus, the scorned woman.
Could that be Sirius?
I'm a Scorpio.
Is Kali the destroyer?
Kali is the destroyer, but she's also in her. That's only in her her terrible form. In her, that's when the ego is relentless. Kali is the devouring form, you know. But in her, she's also the good mother, you know. If the ego is open and surrendered, Kali doesn't have to be in her fierce form, which we often know her as the Bhadra Kali, which is the fierce form of Kali.
Could that last one you said be Sirius, Demeter as well? The Venus thing with the
Which one?
Isis, the
Isis, yeah.
Venus.
Yeah.
It could have some Sirius, Demeter.
Sure. Demeter.
Because you
yeah.
said the big pregnant mother, and I was like,
Demeter,
the great
oh,
mother.
Yeah, absolutely, the great mother.
Agriculture.
Yeah. Mercury, the magician archetype, which is, you know, he's able to like use all the elements. He's got all the elements on his table, and he's channeling them from higher to lower. He's a juggler, the initiate, the conjurer, the wizard, our creative will, the crown of understanding, the trickster, the occultist, the fabricator, the writer. So, Neptune, the hangman. That's another one of the dramatic ones. Neptune's connected to sacrifice, the thief, Judas, the victim, Samadhi, which is like the final state of liberation, the acrobat, crucifixion, mental purity, the law of reversal, baptism, the example, the divine, the drowned man, the redeemer, the old man of the sea, the invisible one, the masochist, and dissolution. And Uranus. Uranus is the fool, the vagabond, breath, lightning, the April fool, the jester, Tao, spirit, the divine burn, the Holy Ghost, every man, the crown of wisdom, spirit, the eccentric, the androgynous one, fiery intelligence, genius, and the joker. And of course, Saturn. Saturn is the archetype of the world, the final hero card, the completion. Saturn is completion, karma. The crown of the magi, Chronos, the old god, the point of now. All those books like now.
Power of Now.
Power of Now, yes. He must have a lot of Saturn. A lot of Saturn. He must have many Saturns in his chart. Can you imagine you guys would have more than one Saturn? They have 5 Saturns.
It's got a lot of rings and moons.
Yeah, feels like it. That which holds all together, cosmic consciousness, the initiated one, the dance of Shiva, which brings existence into being and out of being, the eternal present, time and reality. And last but not least, it is Pluto. Pluto is the last judgment card, very apocalyptic. So, people with strong Pluto also like to talk about the
Yes.
Yeah. The resurrection, the raising of the dead, it's like transformation. You're rising up. Come on, woman, rise up.
Lazarus.
Mental purity. Stop saying that.
Oh.
No, I mean,
Don't let him know.
no, my ear. I'm doing well. Everything's fine. You're like tripping in the garden.
She's a Pisces. She is. You might not notice.
All of a sudden, Hades is like,
Right.
watch out. Hades, the great vocation, the physical phallus, the hidden one, the apocalypse, Shiva, the gangster, rise, the kidnapper, the force of gravity, the phoenix, and the splendor of the material world. Yeah, and I give credit to a lot of these, again, to this, if you want to, I really recommend reading the Inner Guide meditation. Edwin Steinbarger did a lot of research, a lot of collecting of archetypes, and he's the one that devised the system that I want to share with you, that helped my clients tremendously. I studied with him back in 2000, like right before he passed away. And it's sad because there's very few people practicing this or doing this on kind of spreading the gospel in like Sagittarius rising kind of way. Because I think it's an amazing tool actually to use for astrologers and psychotherapists both. But it's the best part about it is that you don't have to. It's like doing your own therapy. You don't have to be a therapist or even an astrologer to use this practice. So here's what you do. Now the practical part. Now, yes, I wish I had brought. It's interesting. I have a book called The Saturn Return, Surviving Saturn Return. There. And that will be more of a practical application, but just really working with the archetype of Saturn through all of the different archetypes, all the energies. We recommend there.
Where can you get that book?
But you can get that on Amazon or in Barnes and Noble. Yeah, from SaturnReturn.net. We sell it on our website. But that's specifically about Saturn. But you do go through all of the different zodiac signs, so you don't have to be in your Saturn return to benefit from the book. That was just the way they marketed the book, of course, marketing scheme. Although it helps when you are in your Saturn return, of course, to deal with Saturn. But my DVD actually is a way to use these archetypes physically. I try to devise a system because I found that working with my clients doing authentic movement, I wanted to do that if we had different space and time with you all, and you all brought your comfy clothes to dance around. But I didn't want to put anyone on the spot.
I was going to show you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
I was at the Blast and I went to her workshop, and at the it was really cool because we all got in a circle and she played this like Aries music and everybody coming to the circle, and you would just dance what you felt through that music, that Aries music, and everybody
The
just
archetype moved through
and then
it.
we went through Taurus and Gemini. We paired off in pairs, and we had to like mimic each other. It was really fun.
So having like an embodied experience of these archetypes that I discussed, like, I mean, because they are, again, the nature of archetypes is that they are mostly rooted in the unconscious. They're very difficult to make conscious, right? So they do usually show up in our lives as an experience, you know. If they're just a mental construct, you can't do much with them, right? I mean, it doesn't really change anything. It helps to understand, but we're looking for that, again, that numinous experience. So dance is an amazing realm. So that's why I created, unfortunately, because I couldn't do oh, it's back again.
What sign is that?
Yeah.
The dove.
That's
Construction
Saturn.
worker.
That's Saturn. Time's up.
What sign is birds? Which birds? Virgo?
I think it's Gemini. I don't know.
It's Gemini.
Yeah, I would think so.
My astrology teacher was Gemini with Gemini rising sun.
Love
She
birds.
took pictures of birds and then painted them. She was like a bird fanatic.
Yeah. Well, that's a Gemini Saturn combo there. The clock is very Saturn, of course. But anyway, so the DVD, there's a booklet that comes with the DVD that describes how each part of the body is connected with a different sign, and if you're having specific issues, you work with different movements to become more conscious of that issue. Like, for instance, if you are having a lot of headaches, you work with Aries. The Aries energy, or anger issues, you work with the Aries energy, and in the DVD offer, there's different movement recommendations to get that energy in your body. And then there's a very structured warm-up with, it's a mixture of yoga and there's some Pilates type movements and even some belly dance type movements for Scorpio, like all different aspects of movement to get you physically to experience the archetypes.
Great for New Year's workout programs.
Yeah, it's a great workout anyway. But you can do. The nice thing about the DVD is you can kind of tailor the workout to what you want, and then there's the authentic movement part as the second half of the DVD. And it's got a menu, so you can do specifically whatever you need, which is nice. You don't have to do the whole workout or watch the whole thing. So anyway, that's the DVD.
And how much is that?
It's $19. My next question.
I figured everyone would know.
It's $24.95 on the website. For Asheville friends. The CD is the music, different music that it's original music composed by a friend of mine for each sign of the zodiac. That's $10. I'm almost out of them, unfortunately. I only have 2 left. But if people want them, I can get more. But anyway, the point is that I really found I recommend that to my clients actually too. Other than this meditation, I use the authentic movement for people to really experience the archetypes that way. They really show up in dance. They show up in dreams. They definitely show up in your dreams. Now that you've listened and heard these archetypes, I think you'll be able to recognize them in your own dreams. Hopefully you all write down your dreams. It's an amazing tool for consciousness. Make time for your dream work. Really. You have to listen to your dreams, pay attention. It's like infinite potential there. And through movement, that's why if these archetypes are frozen in our body, it's like they can be very debilitating and even cause disease. But if they have expression, and I see it in my dance workshops with people, like the things that come out are amazing. When you give the archetypes permission to express through the physical, it's unbelievable, what you experience and what change happens. And now for the meditation, which you can do on your own at home, and we can do a little, I don't know, you guys all have a few more minutes to stay. Would you like to do a led meditation? Okay. Before we do that, I just want to say that the main thing you do with your horoscope is you would first break it down into the archetypes like we discussed. So for instance, if you were a Sagittarius rising, let's say, instead of thinking of yourself as I am a Sagittarius rising, you would work with it as Temperance rising. You work specifically with that archetype. Or Capricorn rising, you work with the old Pan, the devil type, things like that.
She's so out of touch with
The archetype of old Pan or the devil. You would work with that imagery, But it's very important when you work with your chart archetypally that you work with what's called your inner guide. It's that part of your psyche that helps to mediate these energies, Many writers and artists work with their guide. It's like your inner teacher, basically. It's a figure that's been with you since you were born. That it's almost like an inner guardian angel that governs the astral realm and the realm of dreams, the realm of it's that part of you also that It really is your inner teacher. It's a part of you that knows when something is too much. So it's very important not to let the ego take over and be like, I don't need the God, I'm just going to go work directly with the archetype. Because archetypes are powerful energies, you know. Don't take them lightly, you know. There's a lot of stories about people who've had, you know, you can go crazy, honestly. Or you can get very sick working directly with these energies. So it's very important to always have a guide to mediate the energy. And if you can't get to your guide, if you can't access your inner guide, then it's important to do it more with another person as like an act of imagination, as a therapist or somebody. I think if you're going to really work with these energies, because they are potent energies, trust me. So meditate at your own risk with those. But what I want to help you guys do is get to your inner guide. So for this, maybe we should turn out the lights. It will help. So most importantly, to start, you can do this sitting up in a chair, unlike a lot of meditations, right? But the most important thing, like with any meditation, is that you have your back straight and you don't have your legs crossed, so your energy is you're not crossing everything up. Okay. And just take a few really deep breaths. And often when I do this meditation, people, the first thing they complain about is, I'm making this all up. Yes, exactly. That is the point. That is the point. And it is making you up. So I want you now to see with your inner eye, to get a vision of yourself. And I want it, in this meditation, it is as though you are looking out of your own eyes rather than seeing yourself. You are actually in the meditation, looking out of your own eyes. And imagine that you have just entered a cave with the entrance behind you. Okay, and take a few minutes while in this cave to take in the atmosphere. Is it hot or cold? Wet or dry? Really imagine that you are barefoot, so you can really feel the earth underneath your feet. Really ground your entire physical body through the soles of your feet. And if your vision becomes blurry, just always come back to the connection with the earth and your feet. And begin to slowly walk deeper into the cave until it winds around to the left and you see an opening. And this opening is going to take you into a very bright landscape. Now, when you're in the landscape, with your mind, I want you to call a small animal to you and just trust the first thing that shows up. And ask this animal to take you directly to the feet of your true guide. Let the animal take you to your inner guide. Just follow and trust. Don't let your mind block you. Just trust. Just go. And when you get to the guide, you're going to start first with the feet. First going to only see the feet. And you will work your way up the body from the feet very slowly. It's often difficult to see your guide's face in the first meditation, so don't worry. Just work up. Get a good visual of this guide. And let this figure take your hands into his and ask him to let you feel his love for you. And if you don't feel love, you don't feel a warm feeling, this is not your guide. So if you do experience this, just let go. For those of you who feel this, stay with your guide, and I just want to work with people who do not feel this. If you do experience that, then you ask the animal now, right behind this figure to the right, there should be another figure standing there. And again, just start with the feet and work your way up. And ask this figure, are you my true inner guide? point, if you don't have the guide, don't worry. Just let it go. And you may just rest in the landscape, and we'll come back to you. But for the rest of you, hopefully you've found your guide, and now I want you to ask this guide what is his primary teaching for you now that you have connected to him. If he has any counsel for you or wisdom, what is his primary teaching at this point for you? And again, take the first thing that comes to you without censoring it, in whatever form it comes. And now ask your guide for a name, if you like, call him by name. And ask him to point to where the sun is in the landscape. And ask him to bring the sun down into a human form so that it's standing there with the two of you. And let the sun take any form it wishes, just so that it's human and you can dialogue with it. And now give the sun permission to radiate as much of its solar energy into your physical body that you can handle. And ask the sun to especially focus on the heart center. And your guide will tell you when it's enough. And now ask the sun what it is that he or she needs from you in your life so that you guys can become friends and the sun can help you in your life, to help you realize your purpose or to help bring more of a vital force to your life. What does the sun need from you in your life? And again, take the first thing that comes. If you're having difficulty concentrating, go back to grounding your feet. And now ask the sun what it is that you need from him or her in your life, and ask the sun to offer you this in the form of a gift, something that you can use. Let the sun give you some sort of gift, some sort of physical object that you can use. And if you don't know what the purpose of, you can ask the sun, what is the purpose of this object or this gift? How can I use this? And then ask the sun to place this object somewhere in your physical body where you need to absorb the energy the most. And then you can thank the sun for coming and come back to your guide. And just see if the guide has any other wisdom or any other advice for you right now. And even ask what your connection was in a former life, or what the guide has come to teach you. And establish a meeting place so when you come to do the meditation the next time, you'll have no problem finding your guide somewhere in the landscape where you can meet your guide next time. And then whenever you're ready, you can have the animal take you back to the cave. And when you're back in the cave, you will be back. Come back to the room. And if somebody can turn on the lights. Just one light. Just so I can see you for a minute. You can take notes.
Right behind.
Ooh, how was that?
That was very nice. Thank you.
see, it's a very accessible meditation. Did any of you have a difficult time getting to your guide? Did you feel? Yeah.
You were my guide.
By the way, if your guide is a person that you know, it's not your real guide. It should not be
Kelly, you're out.
anybody. That
I was just kidding because I wasn't doing it. I was
Okay,
watching you. You know.
Yeah, but it's true, and it's very important that you feel an unconditional love from this figure. That's how you know it's your guide. You know, otherwise you're working with a false guide, which is an ego guide, which will just either tell you what you want to hear or scare you. That's no good. So sometimes we have to do it more than once. You know, and often that's resistance. People that have a lot of Saturn or tend to have a lot of doubt or fear and difficulty accessing their imagination often have a difficulty with this meditation, but they're the ones often that need it the most. So I recommend keep working with it. You know. And you just keep doing. I mean, it helps sometimes if you have someone to do it with too. You don't have to actually, and if you want, when you go back to the meditation the next time, it's just it's a transitional space that helps. It's a symbol of going deeper into the unconscious. Some people like to envision going down a spiral staircase.
It's like the tunnel.
The
huh?
cave, it's the shamanic type of. It's just it tends to work.
They
well
had an opening at the sun. It was great.
Oh, yeah, but it's like Indiana and Indiana Jones. Why did it have to do snakes?
Yeah, you can work. The nice thing because it is, with this meditation, you'll adapt it over time to become your own. And the most important thing, the point is that you have the protection of the guide. I think that's the main thing. And then you can change the meditation. I mean, you can work with it. The idea is to work with your horoscope now. We just worked with the sun, so that's your solar figure, And but if any of you really want to get deeper into this work or this meditation, you can work with me. I can help you. We can break down your chart into the archetypes, and I can give you deeper tools to work with. I'm just giving you sort of an introduction, but
So that was just a sun meditation?
that was just the sun, but you can work with your entire horoscope. We work with these constructs. Like I often spend a lot of time working with people with especially the difficult aspects in their chart, like squares and oppositions, and work with those archetypes specifically to help integrate them into consciousness. And then the ones, like when you have trines in your chart, those are called high energy pairs that actually work very well together and can often help the weaker aspects of your chart. So it's a great wealth of information, and I recommend, also to get the book if you're interested in this work, the Inner Guide Meditation. And I've just found it's been a tremendous help in my practice and personally, and it's a great. It's a type of meditation you can do anywhere. Now the thing to do is take notes after, because it's like a dream. It often goes back. You're really entering the astral realm when you do this meditation. Have any of you done any active imagination in your lives?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're familiar with this kind of work? Okay, good.
But you gave a structure. You gave a step by step. They haven't had a whole lot of patience.
Yeah.